Damian Wampler, the creator of the Monitor. How you doing, Damian?
I'm doing great. Thanks for having me on the show. It's great to be here.
It's my pleasure. So tell us about the Monitor.
Yeah, so Monitor happened after I watched two documentaries. One that was like really inspiring and uplifting, and then the other one that was really horrifying. So I watched this one documentary called The Human Face of Big Data, and it was all about how if everyone has a cell phone and a smartwatch and all their data, like their heart rate and blood pressure, and all the data goes up into this cloud, scientists can do this great stuff with it. And then I watched another documentary about Cambridge Analytics. I don't know if you're familiar, about the horrible things that can be done if evil people get a hold of all of your data, like your psychological profile and everything. So Monitor is this cyberpunk sci-fi thriller in a not so distant future where everyone has all these monitors built into their bodies, plugged into their bone marrow from birth, and all data is uploaded to the server. And data is like currency. It's bought and sold on the market, but disconnecting from the network and being private is a crime. So privacy is a crime punishable by death. And these police enforcers called axons hunt down anybody who disconnects from the network. These people are called disconnects. They're like the scum of society.
Wow, that sounds really interesting. How many issues do you plan for the series?
So this is it's a 100-page graphic novel, and it's broken out into I think 6 chapters. But right now it's just a one-shot paperback graphic novel.
All right, and it's on Kickstarter now, right?
Yeah, it's on Kickstarter now until November 30th. So if you want to grab a copy, head over there. This is something that we've been working on. My artist Elizabeth Mahidze and our colorist Wukash, we've been working on it for 2 years, and the whole thing is done. What's really great about this Kickstarter is everything's finished. Like all 100 pages of art are drawn, colored, lettered. We have a cover, but because of COVID, we weren't able to print any copies. So it's there now. If you were to go like on Black Friday and get a copy for yourself or get some copies as gifts, we're going to be shipping it right away. As soon as the campaign's over, if we're successful, we're going to ship it out. I can't guarantee you that it's going to be there for Christmas, but it'll be there pretty darn close, like, late December, early January.
All right. And is this your first comic book ever?
No, this is my second graphic novel. So my first graphic novel, Savara, was also published by Broken Icon Comics. That was like a epic fantasy action adventure where it was about a goddess who had lived for hundreds of thousands of years, and she and her other heroes had saved the world. And then she goes into a deep sleep, and the whole idea is that while these heroes are sleeping, all their memories are going to get deleted and wiped out, and they can wake up and the world will be reborn and fresh and new again. But Savara decides not to delete her memories, and they seep out into all of humanity, and she's got to she wakes up and she finds the whole world is corrupted, and she's got to set things right again. So that was Savara 5 years ago. It was a long journey to get from Savara to Monitor. I learned a lot, made a lot of mistakes about writing and marketing. So Monitor is like a million times better, and I'm super excited about it. If you like Blade Runner and Minority Report and these kinds of cyberpunk thrillers, man, you'll really love Monitor.
All right. Could you tell us some of the mistakes that you made or that other people shouldn't make?
Yeah, that's a good question, because like you learn by making mistakes, right?
Mm-hmm.
Number one was the title. I realized that you've got to make a title that's really straightforward. So I had Savara, it's just a woman's name, and people were like, Savara, what is that?
Mm-hmm.
So when I went to make the next one, I'm like, I took a cue from like the movie Alien, right? It's very straightforward, Alien, right? You kind of know what it is. You still have a question, but you know what it is. So I was like, okay, Monitor. Everyone has monitors implanted in their bodies from birth. Boom, that's it. And everyone's being monitored by the state. Boom. I've got a couple more graphic novels coming out. One that's coming out next year is called The Rum Running Queen, and that's it. It's about young race car driver and moonshine smuggler from Franklin County, Virginia, and she gets wrapped up in the mob. It's a noir where there's communists, there's gangsters. She runs into Al Capone. Very straightforward. Like the title and the concept should be really easy. As soon as you see the name of the book and you see the image, you should be like, boom, I know what it's about.
Right. That's cool that you mentioned Franklin County because I'm from Roanoke, Virginia, and it's like 45 minutes from Franklin County.
Yeah, the first scene in the book is Roanoke racetrack.
Nice. Might have to check that out.
Yeah, it's going to be really, really cool. I'm super excited about it. And that is, I think, the third or fourth graphic novel I wrote. So I learned a lot. I improved my writing style a lot. So the thing about Rum Running Queen and Monitor is I was like, no flashbacks. I'm not going to do any flashbacks. I'm going to present the story, as straightforward as possible. I'm going to keep the mystery going, keep a lot of questions. But my first graphic novel had too many flashbacks. It was too complicated.
Right.
And so Monitor is more simple. It's a noir, so there's gonna be a whole bunch of twists at the end, right? But it's more simple. And then Rum Running Queen is even more. The storytelling is better. I'm improving as a writer every time I write one of these books.
All right, and can they get the copies of the first book?
Of Savara?
Yeah, of Savara.
I don't have any copies. It's on Comicsology, though. So if you head over to Comicsology, check out Savara or Damian Wampler or Broken Icon Comics. You can read Savara as three issues instead of a graphic novel. But yeah, you can check it out. It's fun because she's lived for hundreds of thousands of years. It switches between fantasy and sci-fi. Because she's a goddess, she's just going through time. And so there's giant robots, there's hover bikes, but then there's also like bows and arrows and sword and fantasy stuff.
That's cool. So what's your third book that you're working on? You told us two. The Monitor, the Rum Runner.
Actually, I have two. Yeah, I got two more. It's been a pretty exciting year, with COVID. I thought, okay, I'm not going to sell any comics, but COVID's a great time to write. For a writer. I'm a writer. I don't do any of the art. So I did something that I wasn't going to do. I put it off for a long time. But with COVID, I had time to reread Moby Dick. And I had always had it in my head to do a science fiction adaptation, like a deep space adaptation of Moby Dick, where everyone's on a spaceship and everything's in zero gravity. And they're hunting these whales that swim in these water planets. So like the ice moons of Jupiter and Saturn are now water moons. And Captain Ahab is this crazed cyborg, with a robotic leg. And Ishmael's this young kid who's on the ride. So I reread Moby Dick and I was in lockdown for months and months and months, like so many people. And I was like, you know what? I'm going to reread it. I'm going to close read Moby Dick, which is, a huge challenge. And I'm going to do the adaptation. So, that graphic novel is called Arrowhead. It's coming out in 2021 through a Canadian publisher called Lucha Comics. And we've already got 22 pages of art and the cover done. There's a young artist named Andrea, and she is just doing this beautiful job making a very bright, vibrant, colorful world. Really, it's the target audience is like 10 to 13-year-olds. It's got like a retro punk kind of feel. Everyone's got those big round helmets, The idea is that, your son or daughter could pick it up at, 10, 12 years old and be reading it and be like, wow, this is really cool, not even knowing that it's Moby Dick. But we're taking actual words from the novel. We're like, I'm drawing directly from the text when I adapt it. And so a lot of Ishmael's words and Queequeg and Ahab, all of their dialogue, it's straight out of the novel as much as I can. I'm just cutting and pasting so that a young kid's going to be familiar. And by age 13, it's like they already know the story of Moby Dick. They know all the characters and everything's, accurate. It's not like a spoof. It's not like Jane Austen and zombies kind of stuff. Arrowhead is like a serious adaptation of Moby Dick.
Wow, that's awesome. That's really cool to inspire kids.
Yeah,
to read.
Definitely. And Arrowhead is the name of Herman Melville's estate in the Berkshires in Massachusetts. So I wanted like kind of a fun, powerful title, Arrowhead, right? It like conjures the the sharpness and the hunt, right? So so Arrowhead with Lucha Comics is the second of the 3 graphic novels that are coming out next year. Next year is going to be an incredible year for me. I hope you can all check out Monitor this year, and then the other books I have coming.
All right. Can people get these at their local comic book stores? Can they request them?
So right now, Monitor is only on Kickstarter. Lucha Comics, we'll have to see. They'll definitely be on Comixology. We'll do a graphic novel. We'll do a Kickstarter for the first graphic novel. If it takes off, if Arrowhead is a huge hit, we'll get it in. We'll get it into Diamond, because Diamond has a publishing pipeline for educational graphic novels, and so we got to see how it goes. We got to see how popular it is and how many backers we have, and if we can raise some money. But if Arrowhead gets big, we'll go to Diamond and we'll try to get into this library edition or educational edition or whatever it's called, and get those books to stores, because it's great to be able to go into a store and pick up a book and hold it in your hands.
Yeah, or walk into a comic book store and say, "That's my book."
Yep. Yeah, and be able to sign them for people. Yeah, it's great.
Right, that'd be an amazing feeling. So, would you tell us some of the do's and don'ts to not do for Kickstarter?
Yeah. Well, going back to one of the do's and don'ts for creating a graphic novel or comic book, the first big mistake I made with Savara was going over my budget, and this also applies to Kickstarter. Comic books don't make a lot of money. You'll print your books, you'll ship them. Even if you sell like 100 books or 500 books, you're still barely making any money. You're in comics, you know how it is. It's like a single issue is not going to make you much profit. A single graphic novel is not going to make you much profit. So with Monitor and all my upcoming books, I just made a really realistic budget. So like if someone says, "Oh, I'm $100 a page," I got to pass, right? I'm paying for this out of my pocket. I just got to say no. And so, you want to give your artist a fair price, but you as a creator, if you can't afford $80 a page, $50 a page, don't do it, right? Don't think like, oh, it's going to be better because it's $50 a page when you can only afford $40 a page. And then that's the same thing with the Kickstarter budget. If you got to build your campaign so you can actually afford to print and ship your books and make your rewards, because it's very easy. If you don't calculate it right, it's very easy to actually lose money on a Kickstarter campaign. I've seen people do it where they're like, they raise $30,000 and then they print and ship all the books, and with the shipping and the cost of the rewards, they're like, oh, I didn't realize this, that, and the other thing, and they end up breaking even. Not like you're going to be a millionaire, but you got to do your budget realistically. Do's and don'ts for Kickstarter. My first campaign for Savara was 30 days long, which I know a lot of campaigns are 30 days long. Monitor is only 2 weeks, because what I realized is that whole middle 2 weeks of my campaign, nothing was happening. Nobody was bidding. Nobody was pledging. I wasn't making any money. So I shortened Monitor so that it's just boom. It's one of the newest books. And then, starting tomorrow, it's going to be ending soon. I think one of the big things for Kickstarter is that you've got to spend months preparing for it and contacting, radio shows and bloggers and YouTubers, getting the review copies out there and getting the interviews set up.
Yeah.
Once you have all that set up, your campaign only has to be 2.5, 3 weeks. But what a lot of people do, I think, is they set up a 30-day campaign, they hit the launch button, and then they start contacting the YouTubers, after it's launched, and they're like, I only have, 25 days. Can I get an interview? Mm-hmm. Well, these YouTubers, the radio shows, the reviewers, they are backed up. I mean, there's a lot of indie creators out there. They've got a huge backlog. I've been trying to get Monitor reviewed, and you email people, and they're like, oh yeah. I've got 20 comics ahead of you that I have to review. So you got to reach out early. And then for Kickstarter, I've got a Excel spreadsheet, and I've got the names of all these different websites, the names of the people who run the websites and the reviewers, so that I can take notes. I emailed somebody and they wrote back and they're like, hey, this book doesn't interest me. I don't like sci-fi, but Rum Running Queen sounds interesting. So I put a little note in my spreadsheet, like, she's not interested in film noir or cyberpunk sci-fi, but when Rum Running Queen comes out, I'll send her a copy. Oh, another thing about the Kickstarter campaign is if you pledge for Monitor, we have digital previews of Rum Running Queen and Arrowhead. So if you want to check out, the noir female race car driver and whiskey smuggler, you can have the first 30 pages. If you want the sci-fi adaptation of Moby Dick, first 22 pages, those are digital rewards. So, you can get Monitor and then you can get previews of those two books that I'm working on. And Lucha Comics has hooked us up with tons and tons of digital previews. So I think with Monitor, if you buy a print copy, you'll get like 9 digital comics.
Wow.
And then Broken Icon Comics, my publisher, if you want to throw in another one of their books, you can do that as an add-on or one of the higher reward tiers. They'll just take Monitor, they'll throw in another one of their books, and you'll get 2 books for a really low price. So,
oh wow, that's awesome. Let's see. Thinking. Oh, before you started writing comics, did you write any other books?
Yeah, so that's the thing. Before I got into comics, I was a playwright. I had written a couple plays in college. I was living in New York City, and I wrote a play, and I submitted it to some theater festivals. And one of my plays got into the an environmental and global theater festival. And so, I was a writer. I was really good at dialogue, and I produced that play. I think that was in 2009. I produced it in New York City. And I was also a photographer. So I was doing documentary photographer. I was traveling, taking photos of in New York City of immigrants, refugees, homeless people, and different portraits of dancers and street life. And actually 2 of my photographs ended up in the Brooklyn Museum. So I have this visual sensibility. I went to photography school, actually. I went to SVA. So I've always had this visual, mindset. And I've for years, I've been doing theater and writing for theater. So I have this sense of dialogue. But in 2009, I changed jobs. I ended up going overseas to work on exchange programs. And I couldn't do photography in a lot of the countries that I was living in, and I couldn't do theater really in any of the countries that I was working in. And, I had written a script. Actually, Savara was a script that I had written for a theater festival. And I could submit it. I could submit this theater script, but I wouldn't be there to see it produced. So that was impossible. So I changed Savara into a graphic novel. And since then, I've just been doing comics. I taught myself how to write comics, and as a writer, I go online. I go to like DeviantArt or Facebook, or through comic book conventions, and I find artists and I hire them to do the work. So the artist for Monitor, her name's Elizabeth. I actually met her in Georgia, not the state of Georgia, the country of Georgia, when I was living there, and she's awesome. She's a young art student. She does brilliant work. She drew all of Monitor, and now she's working on another graphic novel, which is coming out through Marcosia in 2021. So after Monitor wrapped up, I was like, wow, Elizabeth, you are awesome. We need to do another book. And so I created this story about a family of half monsters, half humans in a world where monsters and humans coexist. And so we're doing this indie family drama. It's, if you're a fan of like Saga or The Vision or something like that, this is just a mother and father, son and daughter in the suburbs outside of San Francisco, just trying to survive and get through the day. in a world that's being, torn apart by anti-monster riots and violence. That's called Monsterly, coming out through Marcosia, which is a really great publisher in the UK. And yeah, 2021 is going to be a great year for me because I signed with 2 new publishers in 2020. But I also hope that for readers it'll be good, because I've got all these different projects coming out. Each one's a little bit different. They're all fun, and my writing's getting better and better. Each graphic novel is a serious improvement over the next. So Monsterly is very personal. In a lot of ways, it's autobiographical. A lot of elements from my own life and marriage and raising a kid. And I think maybe, I don't know. I hope people will like it. It's quirky. It's fun. It's simple. No flashbacks. Almost no captions at all. A lot of the pages you can read without reading the word balloons at all, and you can understand it. There are whole segments that don't have any word balloons at all. It's just action and images and emotions. So that's Monsterly.
All right. Well, thank you for coming and taking the time to talk with us. Is there anything you want to say really quick before we let you go?
Yeah, Cody, just thanks for having me on the show. I really hope people can check out Monitor. We put a lot of energy into getting this graphic novel out. So if you like, again, Blade Runner, Minority Report, Black Mirror, that kind of stuff, check out Monitor on Kickstarter until November 30th. I will try my best to get it to people's houses by Christmas. We will do everything possible to get it there really fast. And it's a fun time, and it's just been really great to have the opportunity. Even though we're in COVID, everyone's on lockdown, Kickstarter is allowing me to make our art come to life. The problem is, though, that we're only at like 57% funded, so we need a couple more people to go and pledge so that we can print these books finally.
All right. Thank you.